bring to fall the giants? Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we bring to fall the giants? Can we bring to fall the giants? We are the ones to ignite the darkened skies, the champions of the world that we defy. A solar ray of the few who rise up high, and we all fight at the last
And we are back. I hope y'all enjoyed that game number one. That was definitely casted this whole time. We haven't been in any sort of spec delay sort of issue in this one whatsoever. I don't know what you're talking about. That game one definitely happened. But Yanni, we're moving on to game number two. Hopefully the spec delay issue has been fixed. And we do have Fearless. Keep in mind these are going to be Fearless. It's going to be a full 3 games. Right below my dumb head is going to be the first set of Fearless, and right below Yanni's dumb head are going to be the second set of Fearless. So those will no longer be the picks going forward.
And you know what? I really want to talk about game one. I really love how insert player name here played insert champion name here. They had a really large impact on the game.
Absolutely.
We did not see anything, by the way. We didn't see anything, just to tell the people.
Yeah, so we don't know anything other than, do we even know who won?
No. Honestly, it doesn't matter.
Information?
It doesn't really matter all that much who wins or who loses. This is a showcase for the players. I believe Team A won. So, this is a showcase for the players, and it really is a shame that we're not able to show it on stream. But one thing to remember about this event is it is for the players. They have coaches, everything's insulated. So even though we aren't able to stream it, right, and it's less opportunity, we get to tell their stories, these guys are still getting that benefit regardless of whether or not the games are streamed or not. They get one-on-one time with coaches. They get group sessions where they get to discuss things. I mean, a lot of these coaches have been around the block, have, great resumes. They are, legitimate, strong coaches. So all in all, it's okay that it wasn't streamed, although I'm much happier when games are streamed when they aren't. And look at this, Korak.
Azir. We were just talking about him in draft.
Lock-in. We're not sure if we're not sure if you guys heard us talk about Azir, but we were talking about how badly we want to see an Azir come through, because you don't see it happen that much at this level of play, and he's locked in.
And that followed into Zen makes a lot of sense and is always this really safe pick. I like him in sort of the first, like if it's a best of 3, I like him in the first games. But I think he's a very solid choice in the second games, especially if you're playing in blind. He's just good overall. It's not like he has like a massive counter. I think typically the response, Yanni, is Pantheon, who I haven't seen as much lately. So maybe we'll get to see Pantheon into this.
Yeah, Pantheon took some heavy nerfs, though. His clear speed was reduced by like 30%. They gave 5% back, but I don't think that's enough. We still see him played occasionally because he just brings so much to the table, but I don't know if that's going to be the case here. They follow up that since out with a Caitlyn lock-in. I do have a lot of questions on what Team A is going to pull out next if they want to get one of Caitlyn's really strong pairings, like a Karma. Nico's obviously off the table. Maybe this is where we're seeing Morgana. Or they might go into the mid lane here, because obviously the mid lane will get focused down in the second half of bans, I think. We're on the other side. We're just seeing Ezreal lock in. This does mean that Karma's going to follow through. They're going to break up that strong bot lane with the Caitlyn. I think this might be a period where Team A should just elect to lock their mid lane here.
I do like this response for grabbing the Karma, not only for the Nile, and this is why I really, really enjoy Fearless and how the picks work down, because there's a lot of calculations, and it's not like coaches didn't have a job before, but this adds an extra layer of complexity that I've just been such a massive fan on. Grabbing the Karma is so good for a lot of reasons, and it gives a lot of pressure in the bot lane between the Ezreal poke and the Karma poke. That's going to be a very oppressive lane, even for somebody like Caitlyn, who has a lot of range to play around with. So I do like this, and the first 2 picks here for Team A I also really, really enjoy, because in my opinion these are very hands diff champions, both Ezreal and Azir. Karma not quite as much, but I do still really enjoy Karma. We're going to follow that immediately into a Mel, though, it looks like, Yanni.
Yep, now we're in the second half of bans, and already we're going to see some aim at the top lane here from Team A. Team B, again, I'm expecting them to go towards supports here. Mel can be shifted into support. It's not really great for her. I'd rather see her in the mid lane in this particular game, but it does feel like a Caitlyn Mel lane is something that can definitely stand on its own 2 feet, be really strong into this Ezreal Karma, and kind of give Caitlyn some of that advantage back. She's so strong in the early game, so when she's up against a strong poke lane, any neutralization you can do is really, really beneficial. So Team B looks like they're going to aim their ban over at the top side as well. So Denethor and Decoy can have slimmer pickings for their selections.
Absolutely, and I'm taking a look at chat too, and it looks like Shanathon is estimating that we're going to get a Scion on 4, and I do like this. I think Scion is a safe pick if you're picking them blind. I think it's a very solid choice because, you know, Scion can be 0 and 10, and it doesn't matter. He's still Scion. He can still ult you from halfway across the map. He can still destroy towers. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that. It looks like the final band's going to be Sejuani Rakan.
Don't get baited.
I
It's going to be Rakan.
Okay. I already got baited. It's too late. It's
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah, don't get baited, bro. But no, this is a solid ban. Mostly because Rakan really good at teaming up with Xin. One of the big concerns I have with the Xin Zhao pick over on Team A is that they don't have any dive buddies, right? You know, sometimes you'll go with a bit of an aggressive mid laner to have a strong 2v2, or you know, things like a Taliyah works out, but also things like an Ari, which have been recently buffed, would work out really well and give you that dive capability. Caitlyn just doesn't really give you that sort of thing. Scion is going to be the lock-in here, and I like that for Decoy. Obviously, just an evergreen top lane champion that is really, really good right now. Honestly, one of the best champions in the game, not just one of the best top laners.
Absolutely. And sort of looking here at the team comp here for at least the 4 picks that we do have, Team B seems to go for, at the very least, one of their primary advantages, I think, is their ability to kind of control the placement of the other side, because you've got to watch out for Zen, you've got to watch out for traps for Caitlyn, you've got to watch out for the damage for Caitlyn, you've got to watch out for the stuns coming in from Mel, you've always got to watch out for Scion, plus Scion has a decent, really powerful knock-up that he spins up and he spools up. So there's a lot of placement deals that they have to walk into. It looks like so far the responses here for Team A are going to use Sejuani. I really, really enjoy Sejuani. Very, very defensive. Adds a lot of that front line, the protection for Azir, the protection for Ezreal, of course, with Karma. And then it looks like we're going to lock in Aatrox. So I like both of these. Very, very solid frontliners to provide their damage time to get the damage in.
Yeah, I like to see Denethor on Aatrox. Is not a champion that we see him on often. So whenever you get to see that, it is generally a treat. I really dislike the Sejuani here. You know, you don't get an advantage of the double melee champions that you typically like to see in these side lanes, or I'm sorry, in the solo lanes. And Sejuani Azir is just not really a strong combination. Final pick is going to be support. It's going to be a Bard coming through. So as expected, it's going to be Mel going into the mid lane. And that's a mid jungle duo that I think is far better. But not only that, this Bard is going to wreak a lot of havoc in this game. These Tempered Fates are going to be so important. Bounty is going to have many opportunities to really stop this Azir from making an impact and stop this Aatrox from going absolutely ballistic in these fights, Korak.
Absolutely. And, you know, everybody knows how powerful the ultimate there is for Bard and how and when they use it. We got to see a lot of that, or say we got to see at least a good amount of it in LTA Grand Finals, which is really, really exciting. I hope we get to see at least a little bit of a repeat of that. We are sort of getting close to that level either way. And I'm a really big fan of Bard. I think Bard support-wise is one of the ones that kind of turned into this hand stiff for the support range. And I like the versatility that the Riot seems to go for. Every lane seems to have someone who can play that hand stiff role. And, you know, Bard's not 1,000,000% there, but I think he's a very solid contender for that sector.
Yeah, you need to be very careful when you're playing this champion. You can put yourself into a lot of bad spots. And if your ultimates are not on point, you could really ruin your team's game. So again, Bounty is going to have to be on top of that sort of thing. Now, one thing that I think is very important for both of these teams is grub control. Grub control is going to be so big because on Team B, you've got Azir and you've got Aatrox, you know, champions that in the solo lanes really want to be able to take advantage of that sort of thing. And over on Team A, you've got this Caitlyn and even a Scion, a champion that can be really hard to move. They get a lot of benefit from these grubs. Caitlyn, as we all know, has the bit of that longer range. Now, what's going to make this difficult is who's going to get the advantage in this bottom lane, right? Because whoever gets the advantage in the bottom lane and is performing better and is able to, you know, take control of the top side when a swap may happen is going to have a better chance at securing the grubs. And because of how this bot lane operates, so we've got the poke of Ezreal Karma versus the long range ability of Caitlyn Bard, it's going to be very contentious. It's going to really be on these players to play mechanically well to ensure these early advantages to get that objective.
Absolutely. And sort of thinking about how important the void grubs are going to be. The rotation, I think, is going to matter a whole bunch, whether they do a full bot lane going top there to set up for the void grubs, or they just have the supports roam, which I think Bard has a little bit of advantage. But Karma's not exactly slow herself, so she can rotate extremely quickly. She adds a lot of area denial. I suspect what we're going to see is a full rotate in top, but I could be wrong here, Yanni. But I think everybody knows how important those void grubs are going to be. And in my opinion, I'm perfectly fine with giving up the first Drake in order to grab those grubs. Even though there's a 2-minute difference between them, it's kind of hard to immediately go into that 6 minutes and grab that Drake, especially when you're going into Karma and Caitlyn. It's a very, very volatile neutral objective, I think, at the 6-minute mark.
Yeah, and it's very difficult. Like Team A has a tough decision because when you give up that first dragon to a team that scales a little bit better, think, you know, Ezreal, who's going to spike on like 3 items, think Azir, who, as we all know, late game monster of a champion, even Aatrox later on can cause a lot of problems. Making the decision to say, hey, we are going to give up a dragon to secure grubs, if that is the trade-off, does mean it's an extra 5 minutes of scaling that you're giving away to the other team, right? So it is something that you have to put a lot of thought into. One thing that I'm curious to see is if Team B elects to lane swap and send Sion into the bot lane with the Bard. Now, I do think that getting the ranged Caitlyn into the Aatrox is going to be hugely beneficial, but I do think this means that you're not willing to fight as Caitlyn Bard to get those advantages against Ezreal Karma, and that will inherently hurt you a little later on when it comes time for that growth.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it's going to depend on not only the tempo of the supports, which is always super, super important, but I think the Ezreal is also really going to set the tone for that. The hands and the poke that he's able to get off are going to be so, so important. Every single one of those, even just making 1 or 2 pokes, can really spell the difference. Even early game Ezreal can do a deceptive amount of damage. And I think people forget how powerful he can be. For me, I don't see it because I'm a support right about the Emerald Diamond level, and all of my Ezreals are terrible and don't exist. So I'm excited to see somebody who knows what they're doing dive into Ezreal, and Ezreal still can do a lot of really crazy stuff. So I'm really, really hyped to see this, and I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to this Ezreal, and most importantly for me, to these supports.
Yeah, you know, Sushi, again, we mentioned it earlier, he's only 19 years old. You know he's got hands. He doesn't have decrepit old man hands. He's got those young hands, right? And he's going to be able to make plays. Now, here's the thing. Ezreal is a vastly different champion depending on what region of the world you're in, to be quite honest with you. We see Korean Ezreal, Chinese Ezreal do crazy things, and the reason why that, like, people are like, oh, this champion is weak, you point over to them and be like, no, this champion is really, really strong on the right hands. So Sushi's got to have the right hands for that. Because
Absolutely.
you know, that early impact, the WQ combo does so much damage. If he gets a free lane, if we're thinking that they send the Caitlyn up top and he gets a free lane to farm, that means he's not going to be disrupted at all. He's going to be able to get his sheen on 900 gold. And that means that these fights are going to get really difficult. That's going to be his first chance to really put his thumbprint on the game.
Absolutely. And I think Ezreal, in a lot of ways, people sort of forget that he's kind of a chess player, right? When I'm talking about ADCs and I'm talking about chess plays, the first one that comes to mind is Aphelios, because you've always got to be planning your next couple of guns ahead of the fights. You got to be prepared for this. And you kind of force your opponents to do the same thing. And I think a lot of what Ezreal has in his kit is a lot like that too. Not to the same extent of Aphelios, but I think those are going to be really, really important things. And specifically how and when he uses his phase is going to have such a massive impact on when that, because he can use it defensive, he can use it aggressive. There's so many different options. So when and where, and even down to like the couple of milliseconds are really, really going to matter on that specific ability.
Right? You are my friend. And one thing that we haven't talked about a lot, we touched on it just a little bit. I'm going to shift focus a little bit. These mid-jungle duos, I mean, you know, Sejuani, Azir, not quite what you'd be expecting in terms of raw power compared to Xin and Mel, right? I think there are opportunities here for them to take advantage of Phi Mini and really set him behind. Remember, this is a champion that we don't really see at the tier 3 level, at the tier 2 level. So, you know, Phi Mini is going to have to show what he's learned on this particular champion in order to, you know, really have himself a good game. Obviously, remember, this is all for the growth of the players. So I think it's a lot of growth here if we're able to see a Fire Mini really make an impact on this Azir and take over the game like some of the best Azirs in the world can.
Absolutely. And for B team, Ezreal, I think is going to set the tempo for this. And I think for the other side, I think bringing up that Zen is going to be so important for the other side as well. Zen is going to set the tempo for his side, in my opinion. His rotation is going to be really important. And we're starting off, and it looks like we've got a 5-stack going on, Yanni. We're looking for some shenanigans early on.
Summoner's Rift.
Not sure if we lost our co-caster in a little bit of lag, but either way, it looks like the 5-minute stack's not really going to happen. I think Claritz did a good job there throwing out the Q, testing it, not running directly into the bush, not making the solo Q issues that we see so often, just running directly into that. And you've got that Q, you may as well use it. Ward going down, Ward getting taken out, and not a bunch of action. Not really surprised about that. Hopefully we've got Yanni back by this point.
Yep, I'm here. And you know that you make this play just in case you could take advantage and get some summoners out of Sushi and Claritz. Obviously, they did a great job of warding and preventing that from happening as Bounty takes a little bit of damage. But this is the swap that we talked about, Korak. We're seeing Caitlyn go up to the top side here, and we're going to see the Bard paired up with the Scion early. This does mean that we're going to see Bio clear from bottom to top here. Maybe look for an opportunity to gank Enthralled early if he doesn't ward properly.
Absolutely, and I think this is really going to test Denethor. Aatrox into range is going to be so hard to deal with. That Scion and Bard, which is a combination I don't see too often. So this is going to be a new thing for me entirely. I'm sure it's not uncommon whatsoever, especially if we're seeing it at this level in this Path2Pro area. But I'm really worried about Denethor. But the thing is like Enthralled really needs to be careful. If he just gets a little too close to Denethor, he's dead. There's no way around it. He's just dead.
Yeah, you got to do a really good job of keeping your range, getting whatever little poke you can when you can. As you can see, there's already some pings over on the top side here, in that top side jungle, saying, "Hey, we haven't seen the Sejuani at all. We don't know what's going on here. Assume that Sejuani will be there soon once you start clearing to the top side."
Absolutely. Denethor really buying his time, sitting at a whole 3 CS into Caitlyn's 11, while it looks like Ezreal there in the bot lane has gotten a decent amount of poking, but I think he also needs to be careful too. Scion is very deceptive. You're like, oh, I've been poking him this whole time, and like, oh, okay, he's just suddenly eaten my entire lunch. Great, that's fun, especially if Bounty's able to get a decent stun off and Ezreal's just sort of stuck there. Scion can queue it up, wound him up, and just deal a massive amount of damage. I don't think they can just sort of 1-2 combo him. I don't think Scion has the damage for that just quite yet, but it's still something for Ezreal to constantly have to watch out as Denethor continues to take a hammering down in the top lane. But he does still have pots left, and he is Aatrox, so his health being that low is a little deceptive.
Yeah, and at least he's getting all of this experience, right? He hasn't been shoved out of the lane. One thing to note is Enthralled's ward is going to be up soon. Bio is going to be completing his clear, but I do like that on the other side, the Xin Zhao went and matched the clear to make sure that he's going to be able to keep his AD carry safe. So that's good on Aeon Crystal. He's a little
Bio
late.
coming in. Caitlyn has already blown a blood over kits. She doesn't have as much escape. The Ghost going to come in. Bio going to find the angle, but unfortunately, it's just not going to be enough as Caitlyn still had the flash out and ready to go. And we're going to get a match over here by Zen. Zen rotating, but he is going to get exposed by the ward, swapping out a sweeper. So that should help Caitlyn out a little bit, providing just a bit more space. But that does mean she is down a flash, such a powerful tool in this early game.
Yeah, that's really disappointing. You really need to get there quickly to go cover for your Caitlyn, or make sure, hey, when's your ward up? We need to go drop a ward here to make sure that Bio's not up there and able to make a play like that. Obviously, it did cost his flash, but Enthralled missing everything will make him very exposable this early on in the game.
Absolutely. We're sitting about 4 minutes on the clock, so about 2 minutes until we've got our Drake out and going. Scuttles are going down. It looks like they already went down in topside. So we should get at least some movement here in a bit for those neutral objectives. Most sides are done with their downtime and have already tried their ganks like we saw there. Bounty maybe getting a little bit too close, but they do see what's going on. This can quickly turn into a 3v2. Karma looking for the stun. Clary's going to go in, but unfortunately she's going to go for Predator play, taking a good chunk of damage, going down about half HP. Zen going back and forward, but not wanting to go into that mess, and I don't blame them. Not only are they outnumbered, but they still have to worry about all the damage from Ezreal.
Yeah, and you know that could have went a lot worse. I like the look there from Team B, but really, again, there's just not too much damage follow-up, right? We talked about how Ezreal, your first time that you're gonna actually be able to make a large impact is when you get that Sheen. You didn't have the opportunity to.
Clarit's able to pick up the stun. Sushi able to do a decent amount of damage, but unfortunately there goes, I thought that was a flash. It was a flash from Bard, actually. Okay, so Bounty was worried about that.
Yeah, sometimes you want to burn your summoner spells just to save whatever you can here and make sure you're saving HP, right? And there still is that heal up for usage whenever you'd like, but sometimes you got to use it to make sure you don't get behind. We talked about it. Getting behind is either one of these lanes is very detrimental.
Sushi getting dangerously close in damage. Enthralled having a very, very nice trade into Ezreal coming out on top. And I think something important to realize here is Clarit's is pretty low on mana, and both of them have got to be looking at a reset here soon. I suspect this is going to be a tier back, but it's been a while since I have played Ezreal, so I'm not sure if that has changed on him. I can't imagine it has. Sheen's still got to be important.
Yep, tier Sheen, which is usually you love to have early. It's either, if you can only choose between, you know, like tier and call or just Sheen, obviously it's like, well, you have to prioritize what you want. But hey, when you can get a tier and a Sheen, it's always a great day in the neighborhood if you are Ezreal. This dragon is up. It's Hextech Dragon for the first as Denethor comes in.
Oh, Denethor looking for an angle there on Decoy, but Decoy not allowing it to happen. Still having a flash out and ready to go. He is going to have to back and make the walk of shame, but most importantly, he's alive, and Denethor doesn't have a kill. We still don't have a first blood yet, Yanni.
Yeah, the problem with this, though, is you can see the large differential on this top side now. That swap definitely helping out, you know, not being as bad for Denethor compared to Decoy, who is down about 20 CS. We're seeing a lot of members of Team A here.
Going in, Bard going over the other side, looking for the stun. Karma looking to grab one further home, but unfortunately not able to lock Bounty down, turning into a bit of a nothing burger, but looks like Caitlyn is able to capitalize and get a good amount of damage on Clarit's as there's less than half HP. That should provide some much needed pressure if blue side is going to contest this dragon.
Hang on, there might be a pincer onto the Xin Zhao here. He's put himself in a weird spot.
Ooh, play Mimi gonna go in. There comes the flash immediately, trying to keep Zen alive. Zen already down to about half HP. Glacial missing the target, but still hitting the Mel directly into the faces. And Thrall trading back and forward into Sushi, dealing a good chunk of damage into Ezreal, and they're very quickly losing their advantage. Zero flash over the other side, going over the trap, trying to avoid it, but taking a healthy amount of damage, absolutely getting destroyed here. Karma looking for the stun. Unfortunately, she's not gonna be up. First blood going to Enthralled as blue side has to back off. 7 minutes on the clock, getting close to 8, getting close to that all-important Void Grub. So this reset is going to be so important, Yanni.
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with that Clarit's had, you know, no flash available, definitely wasn't super healthy, so you ran into a spot where Team B needed to link up with each other, or else they're walking into Xin Zhao and into Mel. And when that happens, that means you're going to be able to free hit, but there's the Temper Fate.
Bardart coming down, trying to lock down the Karma. Karma going to turn it into a stunt of her own. Just one shot away from Clarice getting able to get it, but Sushi able to turn it around and absolutely get one, almost two. Just one more shot is all it takes for Enthralled, but Ezreal's not going to go for it, and I don't blame him because there is some heat waiting for him in the jungle.
That was so close. I thought Enthralled had it because he had so many headshot procs down on the Clarit's, but just not strong enough in this point of the game. You know, Caitlyn can do a whole lot, but you're not going to be able to really do it all. And with that back, that means that Team A is a little slow on the map here. That should allow Team B time to get at least one of these grubs, potentially two. We'll see if Team A wants to fight.
Bard and Mel looking for an angle, but so far we do have a decent response here. Going to turn into at least a 3v3. Void Grub's getting so close. The lion's share going to B side, going to blue side, looking for that third one, but they don't have to risk it if they don't want it. But I think they want this fight, and they get the lion's share. We explained how important grabbing those Void Grubs are, but what also matters is if they can use it. We saw it in the LTA Grand Finals. That those Void Grubs only matter if you can get to the towers.
Without a doubt, and you know, a big reason why it went over to the side of Team B was just that it seemed like Team A didn't have any urgency to try to take them. They're really not overly concerned of letting Enthralled have these grubs to do damage to these turrets. I mean, if you take a look across the board, no plates have been taken by Team A, and you know that just goes to show that they allowed Team B to get and Ezreal Karma to kind of rebuff things as another
Bartle
Tempered Fate
coming
lands.
in, locking down Clarice for the second time. A whole bunch of damage is going to immediately take out Clarice as Zen picks up a kill, and now our score is shaping up 1-2 in the favor of Team A, Yanni.
Another Tempered Fate by Bounty, and you know they're not super high impact ones yet because you haven't had so much of an opportunity, but they are good ones, landing onto singular members, focusing them out. I can't wait to see what he's going to do a little bit later when they're grouped up for some of these team fights.
Absolutely, and we did get a full lane swap here over here in the background. Denethor Decoy making their way down bottom. Couple of plates here still in the favor of Team B, and I gotta imagine that's only going to increase with the power of the Void Grubs as Bio rotates to try to facilitate a little bit of the grabbing of the plates in top lane.
Dragon going to get started up here on the bottom side, looking to get there first here. Our Team A, this Dragon has been up a very long time, but by doing this, you are giving up so many plates on the top side before they expire. I mean, remember, you gave over 3 grubs, so this is the exact opposite of what you wanted when you picked the Caitlyn in your team.
Absolutely. Drake is going to fall to the other side, but they've got to be feeling happy about all of that gold. I think Ezreal getting set up. Karma going to find a stun there, trying to lock them down. The root does come through. Enthrall taking a good chunk of damage, going over the wall, but it's just not going to be enough. Bounty trying to keep his Caitlyn alive, just not going to happen. Bio going to try to go in, and there it is, the feats of warfare. Ezreal is now sitting at 3-0 in this game number 2, Yanni.
Yeah, he's absolutely massive right now, and it's so disappointing for Team A because you do have a little bit, sometimes you just have a little bit more early on when you've got the Caitlyn, but they mismanaged the grub situation, they mismanaged the turret plate situation, forced Team A's bot lane to play a little bit more aggressively on the top side to defend, and they lose so much for it, Korak. Trinity Force completed 12 minutes for your Ezreal.
Absolutely devastating. 12 minutes on the clock. Ezreal's got to be feeling happy with this. I said I wanted to see good Ezreal plays, Yanni, and it looks like we're not going to get disappointed here by Sasushi.
Yeah, Sushi is just so good. He has been a really nice surprise to see this year in 2025. He subbed in for Near Airport in the first split of NACL this year. Like, I mean, you got to be really good for, you know, Double if not being able to play and say, hey, I want this guy to play on our team and represent us.
Denethor looking for an angle on Bounty, just not going to be able to find it, but just providing all the space he needs for Denethor and the other side to just chunk this T1 tower.
Bounty?
That's more plates going to the other side. Bounty going to throw down. Once again, Karma getting caught out of position. Can Caitlyn get the trap down in time? It's not going to be enough. The flash going to come in, and a little bit of nothing burger happiness. Sai Mini able to get a decent amount of damage back and forward here on Mel. Mel looking for the stun. Azir going over the wall, so it's not really going to happen. Decoy did do a rotation, but most importantly, I think B is backing out. They recognized, hey, we got the tower, we got all those plates. Let's just go ahead and reset and not throw our advantage away. I like the control so far from Team B, Yanni.
Yeah, Bounty playing that one on a knife's edge a little bit there, but again, it was a good ultimate. Is hang on. He's looking for 5 mini.
Ooh, Simony able to take a decent amount of damage. Azir still hard to pin down, popping his ultimate to keep the Zen off of him, but Downey's able to find the damage. There is the ultimate for Caitlyn, but it's just not going to be enough. Now Bio has gone in for the save, taking a bit of damage here for Zen as he has to back off, and I believe we're shaping up to another Drake. No, about 2 minutes and 30 seconds for the next Drake, but we should have Shelly at, what, 16?
Shelly going to be coming up very soon, yeah, and damn, that is so disappointing if you're Team A, because with the Collector, you'd expect the ace in the hole to kill Phi Mini, but he just didn't get him to that execution threshold. Now, Enthralled has to do a lot here to try to get that turret plate, and that means he's alone with Bio. It's not a good place you want to be in.
Bio does back off, although Karma maybe in, once again, another bad position. Clarit's really liking to thread this needle, not having a lot of support from their side, but the wards did go down, which are helpful, but we don't have a neutral objective yet, so I'm not sure why Clarit's was deciding to be there. I feel like that was a bit dangerous, and it's already bitten them in the butt, I believe, twice already. Maybe 3 times, actually.
Yeah, it's a rough start. It's a really, really rough start for Team A. Even though the kill score looks a little bit even, they're down 2,000 gold. Sushi is just so strong. You've got a 40 CS lead up in the top lane. I mean, the one thing you can hang your hat on is that Samikin is farming very well, but we haven't really seen Mel make a very large impact. We're now going to see Enthralled finally get his first turret of the game, so a little bit more gold into his pocket, but certainly not as strong as Sushi is right now.
Absolutely. Rift Herald is up, and it looks like immediately Bio is on it, and I don't blame them. They're going to capitalize on their Void Grubs with Shelly. So Shelly with Void Grubs are so powerful. It gives them a lot more pushing power. They've taken so many plates. They've taken so much pressure out of every single lane. I think the only remaining T1 is in mid lane. Yes, indeed. That is the only one. But now they can use it to pressure a T2 if they really want to, or send Shelly top or go mid. There's a lot of different options here for Shelly, and I really love it, especially if they're going to shoot for this Drake that's coming up in 40 seconds. Not only taking out the wave will provide a lot of pressure, but you kind of have to answer Shelly marching their way down into your lane.
Yeah, teams love dropping Herald in the mid lane right when Dragon's about to spawn. They go and they clear out the wave and they say, hey, we're going to drop Shelly. We're going to take control of the river and then play out the fight from there. Shelly charge will not take out the mid turret. So, you know, Team A, if Team B doesn't sell out for taking the turret, can choose to allow that to just happen and keep control of the river if they really want.
Looks like Banana Bush so far is in the control of A side, but there are wards on each side. Stun after stun coming in, locking them down. Once again, Bard gonna do stopping Bio. There comes the flash, but they immediately apply pressure on the jungle, forcing the ultimate there for Zen. This is a powerful tool, no longer in the hands of red side as Shelly gets deployed in mid lane and Drake spawns in the pit.
Yeah, and improper ward clearing there results in Aeon Crystal just getting chunked out big time. Now, it was a good stop by Team A to make sure that Shelly doesn't actually go and get that crash off. We'll see if they're able to take this turret or if they're going to pay for it big time.
So far, it doesn't look like the positioning is on B side. They're kind of trying to reset themselves, and those Caitlyn traps are going to be so powerful. The tower ultimately goes down, which I think is really good. That's such a great response here from A side. They destroyed Shelly. Sure, they weren't able to pick up the objective, but they recognize, hey, that's one objective lost. Let's focus on something else. Let's deny them getting an objective in mid tower and turn it around on them and just take the tower for ourselves. And that's going to be some much-needed gold because they've been able to get the T1s on both mid lane and bot lane just slowly over time.
And remember, Korak, we did say that, you know, if Team B, every dragon they're able to pick up is of plus 5 minutes to their scaling, right? We talk about how Azir can be so strong, and obviously Sushi is going to get on his 3rd item spike and be really strong. He's going to get on his 2 item spike very soon, and that's where I think Team B can really take over the game. So I think it's a pretty wise move on their part to not force a fight. It looked like they were like, hey, we have an angle here, maybe we should, but they wisely remembered their conditions and chose to be safe with those. We're going to see Otacon come up in about 2 minutes and 10 seconds time. So that's going to be the site of the next big fight.
And I think that's a good point to identify some of the things that really separate the cream from the crop, and knowing what your team comp can do is so important. However, Denethor, we're going to take an absolute rinsing over here from the side of Team A, going over the wall, sitting about half HP, but now he is down a flash, and now he is down an ultimate. Well, I don't believe the other side spent too much on him, so they've got to be feeling happy about that. I don't think they could turn that into objective. It doesn't look like we have anything coming online, but at the very least, they can apply pressure somewhere. I guess they could try to take top lane or something. It will be a tall order to turn that into something, unfortunately.
It will be relevant for the Otacon fight, for the Dragon fight. And it depends on when we're going to actually see an Otacon fight happen. We'll definitely see a Dragon fight in 3 minutes, that's for sure. So any reduced effectiveness you can get out of the World Ender is positive. We have another Bar ultimate coming down. This one's on 5 minutes.
Locking down the Azirs. Yeah, the flash going to come through along with the Redemption, trying to keep Clarence alive. That tool is still so powerful as they get the tower. That tower absolutely melted. Yanni, Team B has so much power with those Void Grubs still at their side.
You can see it's going to be causing a real problem for Team A, because despite Team A, you know, playing out the last couple of minutes pretty nicely, they're still down about that 2,000 gold mark. You're seeing Team, you know, B walk down here toward this Otacon pit just for as much vision and control as they can get.
Absolutely. And something I want to note here is I think Team A's used Mel's stun to a really great effect. So the combination between Mel's stun and between Bard's ultimate have really done a lot, but just Team B has not allowed it to turn into anything that might be favorable to the other side. Their control has been very, very powerful. And aside from the positioning here for Claritz every now and then, they've been very, very solid in their positioning, and they're very, very confident in what they want to do and when specifically they want to do it.
Yeah, I think the biggest boon to Team B is that Team A hasn't been able to really do much with these Bard ultimates right now. They did burn 5 minis flash in that last fight. Again, now that your solo laners both don't have flash, it's going to be a lot harder for Team B, especially on an Azir, who you're really trying to do a flash Shurima shuffle.
Claritz testing the bush. Good idea. That could have been very, very devastating. We do have Autocon up, so both sides are going to be looking for that very, very important number advantage because they both really, really want this objective for a lot of different reasons. But Autocon has turned so many fights around and has allowed people to capitalize on that because that armor shred is absolutely insane to have to watch out for. And we do have an Ezreal, a fed Ezreal, to play into that.
Trying to for a little bit of a pincer maneuver here as Bio is putting down as much pressure as he can.
The bounty going in. Sushi not in position just quite yet. However, the damage is going to absolutely rinse the Zen as he takes about a third of his HP already. He does get some of it back, but now Banana Bush is firmly in the control of Team B.
Ezreal coming through. All right, Samikin did his reflect here, so it's going to be down for a while.
Autocon maybe getting started here. I'm not sure. Was that a misclick? I don't know what the thinking was there.
Maybe.
Banana Bush absolutely riddled here with plants. Looking to maybe try to bait the Zen here before this fight starts, and so far both sides need some sort of advantage if they're going to take this Autocon. Zen running directly in. Claritz able to get a tether directly over the wall as Zen once again goes down to half HP. He may have a lot of health regen, but it's going to be really hard. Baron has spawned, and we're looking still for these objectives to start Karma. Claritz throwing a bunch of hands diff, throwing a whole bunch of damage down as Decoy tries to follow up his own, but he could turn from Predator to Prey rather quickly if he's not careful.
And it's another start of a fight where Aeon Crystal is up too far, takes a chunk, but he definitely doesn't want to let this one go as Team A is still trying to get aggressive.
Absolutely. Drake getting about half HP. We should be shaping up some sort of fight. Ezreal popping his ultimate, but it's going to get rebutted once again. Ultimate for Bard, going to hit too, but Azir going to pop their way in. Redemption able to absolutely keep people alive as Decoy gets destroyed and taken down. His clone is the only one left, and that's a double kill for Sushi. Sushi is now looking for more to add to his plate. He wants this Mel. This Mel has to blow a flash in order to get away, but Ezreal's going to be so hard to get away from because Denethor is also on the hunt. He's out for blood, but we're going to reset. We're going to stop going for the blood, and we're going to take this Autocon a much more measured approach, and I don't blame them. Hopefully, they have the time and the damage because that gray screen is very quickly catching up with them.
Man, it's just another fight where Bounty gets off a really good tempered fate, and Team A just can't take advantage of that, right? Like we've seen Samikin laid out a route afterward, but the Emperor's Divide came out, and it made it so Decoy had to take a long walk. Enthralled couldn't really get close. And once again, it is just a big cooldown burnt that has no impact. 2 objectives going over, and, you know, it's an objective split, I should say, because, you know, Team A was able to at least take that dragon away, but it's not like it matters.
Ultimate once again coming down on Claritz. I think that's like a force one follow shortly behind on Mel, locking them down. Caitlyn trying to find the kill, and she does indeed get it. The team allows it. It got really close, but they were able to get their hands on it. Denethor into Bounty. As Bard is in trouble. We're waiting for Zen maybe to go over the wall. A little bit of a nothing burger. Something I wanted to mention before we kick off into more fights is Claritz in that previous fight before Autocon and before Baron got an amazing tether over the wall onto Zen, and I think that really set the tempo for that entire fight. He lost so much HP before everything had even begun.
Yeah, but the good news is, Team A, they know now we can take advantage of the Bard ultimate, right? They need to make more plays like that. The problem is it's going to be so hard at this point in time. Yeah, the goal lead hasn't really gotten any wider for Team B, but that's not a good thing for Team A. They need to be able to shorten up this gold deficit that they're currently in. The good news for them is they do have dragon advantage, but the problem is that one delayed dragon that was, you know, and then the dragon that was taken by Team B, those could combine to cause big problems and allow Team B to get too strong into the late game here. You can already see they're starting to use a lot of this power that they have to take control of this top side. Baron's going to be up in about 30 seconds here, really trying to choke out Team A in this game.
Absolutely. And I mentioned before in draft how important I thought Sushi's Ezreal was going to be for the tempo set, and I think that's going to continue. I am worried a little bit because all of the kills, most of the gold is on Ezreal, right?
That's
so we might run into a bit of a Tony Romo syndrome. So as long as he has it, as long as he stays alive, he's perfectly fine. But if he starts to fall apart, his team might fall apart. Zen looking for an angle there on Bio as Bio tries to buy plenty of time. And Redemption coming in, able to get Bio back to a decent amount of HP. Ezreal still kiting out, maintaining his distance very well. Zen going in, but unfortunately not going to find an angle because Denethor going to try to provide a bit of heal here for Ezreal to keep him alive. They know how important he is as Zen gets so close to going down. Just one more shot, maybe two.
Oh.
Now Sushi is on the menu. That's 2 down on the side of Team B, but the gold is still here. That Sushi is able to do a good chunk of damage as Mel falls in the top lane. Decoy picking up a tether. Going to take a whole bunch of damage from Sushi. Sushi still kiting it out, but I think they're going to lose this T2 here, Yanni.
Yep, and the minion is the MVP in that fight, blocking Aeon Crystal from dying, and then he got a...
Oh,
okay.
no.
He's just overcommitting at that point, but... Oh, wait, oh my god,
Sushi going in, gonna try to find an angle there on Caitlyn. It was a little bit of a false sense of security, so even though the Karma went down, even though Claritz went down by overstepping, it gave Caitlyn false confidence for Ezreal to just walk up and rinse her.
He killed Bounty too, bro! The Ezreal ultimate, the True Shot Barrage killed Bounty on the wall!
I missed the Ezreal! I missed the Bard! Okay, so that was a lot more insane than I expected, Yanni.
You know what didn't miss the Bard? The True Shot Barrage.
Hey, you got me there. Absolutely phenomenal. So far, Ezreal has not disappointed, sitting at 7-0. He has all but one of the kills in this 26-minute game. Things are absolutely heating up. Baron is on the map. 2 Drakes on the side of A1, and the majority of the objectives are on the side of Team B. But Ezreal needs to be pinned down. He needs to be stopped if Team A is going to turn this around, and I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. However, Baron is the original autocon for turning fights around, so there's still a non-zero chance for them to do that.
Well, not only that, Sushi has no flash because that last fight was so crazy. He stepped up a little bit too far at one point, and it allowed Aeon Crystal to get on top of him. Now, I like what Team B is doing here. Now, Baron will reset another
going
portal.
down. Ezreal is locked down. The stun coming in, but it's just not going to be an appropriate amount of time. Denethor able to pull Bounty back in for Ezreal to take him out. TP coming in. Decoy looking for an angle, but I don't think he wants this heat. This is still a lot of damage to deal with. Sure, Karma's down, but both supports are down. But that Ezreal is still going, and you cannot ignore Denethor on this Aatrox. Bio taking a healthy amount of damage. Aatrox, Denethor going to get engaged upon. There is the ultimate there for Zen, providing plenty of space for the other side. Ezreal still is up. There's a chance for them to turn this around, but that is going to be a death as we get Azir popping down his ultimate inside the lane to provide some pressure. Drake is up, and it looks like we're going to go for a full trade. Drake into Baron.
Yeah, Team A should consider themselves lucky that Team B decided to take that extended trade. Bounty did so much in that fight, but now we've got a Baron contest here from Decoy and Samikin trying to get in there.
Enthralled, rotating here for it. Azir trying to find an angle, trying to get in on that Mel. Rebel going to come in, unfortunately just able to barely miss it. This Mel is so slippery. Tether coming in once again, locking down Enthralled, but looks like Sushi does not see him. Sushi going for it. He needs to find the damage, but he only finds a death instead. That's 3 down on the side of Team B, and now there's more blood on the menu. Zen trying to follow it up, and Baron is still on the table here for Team A.
Melee range, Sushi. He shifted forward because he's like, I can get these last couple of kills and squeeze them out, but he was not able to get the job done. He did not have enough damage. A really poor call there by Team B. Instead of going to Team A and fighting them on the dragon, they try to split it up. They lose both objectives for it. Team A is now on sole point, and because of this Baron, the pressure it gives them should put them in a great spot to secure Soul in 4 minutes. This game has flipped completely on its head, Korak. We are seeing Enthralled now on 3.5 items at Caitlyn's time in the game, where you can get really, really big and do a lot of damage, and Fi Mini is not there yet on the other side.
Oh, how the tables have turned. Oh, how the Tonys have romoed here in this second one, picking up a massive bounty on the Ezreal. I explained how important that Tony Romo syndrome is going to be. Sure, it's awesome to have an Ezreal fed, but it's a dual-edged sword. And Team A went from a deficit of 3K to being up in gold now and objectives. However, Bard is going to be able to miss the Azir there as the fight looks like it's going to start over here in the pit. Zen going to try to get locked down. Denethor trying to find an angle, but this is not an ideal fight for them as Cyan comes into the background. Clarice, unfortunately, going to get caught out. Redemption buying them a little bit of time, but it's still ultimately death on the other side. Now the number advantage is on Team A. Team B needs to get out of this because this is no longer their jungle. This is A-side's jungle.
Yeah, and Enthralled wasn't even involved in that fight. That just goes to show how strong Team A is right now. They did not need their AD carry to pick off Clarice, and they're not really missing a beat. They had some damage put down onto Aeon Crystal, but he's fine.
Absolutely, and you mentioned how powerful this push is going to be, how much pressure we can add with Baron. We saw as another T2 goes down and the gold lead increases on the other side. There's now a 4K difference in the favor of Red side, in the favor of Team A. Yanni, truly a table turn for sure.
Yep, and now Enthralled's on his fourth item. He's got more items than Sushi right now because, earlier in the game we were like, man, Sushi is just absolutely running in the table, but Enthralled quietly has picked up 7 kills in this game, has gone and become the main character after an early game that was a little rough, after a couple of close calls where he couldn't get kills to try to get far ahead early. Now, 31 minutes into the game, he's showing up to the party, making the good plays, the good positioning. We are going to have a bit of a pause. Now, one thing to mention about these pauses is the teams are entitled to 1 timeout each that lasts for 2 minutes. This is not something that you see in pro games. It's not something that exists in pro games, but this is something that I really like this, actually, Korak, because it allows both teams time to kind of step back and the coach to say, okay, you are in this position. Well, what is the benefit? How can you turn this around to be beneficial for you if we are on the back foot? And if you are pushing, right, if you're team A, it's like, okay, what does your setup look like in order to secure the soul?
Absolutely. And we mentioned how this is more about the players. This is kind of a boot camp for these guys, not only just a showing, but a boot camp and an opportunity for them to learn certain things here. So the pause does the same thing it does in normal sports, where it gives everybody time to sort of like reorient themselves. And I suspect if this pause is from anyone, and I could be wrong here, but I suspect it's going to be from Team B. And maybe it's the coach popping in and say, hey guys, this is where you're at. This is what you need to do. We need to regain our mental. We need to get things going, and we need to reprioritize our targets and our objectives. So I'd be very, very surprised if that's not what happened. We are going immediately from the mandatory pause into sort of like the Riot client pause afterwards while we take a look at the draft. Do you have any predictions here, Yanni, based on what we see? What does Ezreal need to do? What does Team B need to do to get their lead back?
I mean, it's not Ezreal. In my opinion, it's Mini. I think Mini has made very low impact on this Azir throughout the entire game. And while he doesn't have the damage items, he really needs to make a play with his ultimate. And this is not a good start for Team B.
Once again, locking them down, absolutely nuking that Karma sitting at 0 and 6. That's not what you want to see. Unfortunately, I don't think they have an objective to follow up because it's still 1 minute and 40 seconds, but that's still more gold in the pockets of the wrong side. Karma stepping up just a little bit too close once again, I feel.
Yeah, and you still have Baron for a little bit longer, so this allows you to take purchase of the bottom side of the jungle, ward it up 1 minute and 25 seconds before the dragon. So yeah, while the Baron's going to expire, and in the grand scheme of things, oh yeah, the kill doesn't directly result in an objective, it's going to result in a lot of bot side control.
Bio going in, looking for an angle on Sion. At the very least, they were able to force his ultimate. I don't think that's the worst thing. Baron is finally up and over, but the T2 is down, and now they're focusing on the T3. This is a lot of pressure. This is a lot of pushing, trying to maintain the gold lead on A side. It's 52K to 58K, Yanni, 9 to 13 at 32 minutes. Bio maybe in a little bit of trouble. Got to watch out for this, but the same thing could be said. This is not great positioning for the other side. Once again, Bard, amazing ultimate after an amazing ultimate. Mel able to follow up, dealing an absolute chunk of damage. And Thrall picks up a kill there on Denethor. Denethor going down. He may have had a lot of HP, but it wasn't enough as the rebuttal comes in, grabbing the stun once again on Bio. There's a defensive ult on the other side as Sushi just has to deal damage on the other side. Decoy trying to lock down Clarice for the second or third time in bot lane as the ultimate comes out for Azir, locking down the T3, hopefully, or at least the fake T3.
Yeah, that's not going to be the game on this push, but that is going to be Soul for sure. That is such a great play coming out by Sambakin with that rebuttal, and Abayo just trying to defensively use that ultimate because there was no play to be had, ends up putting himself in an awful spot. Sushi used his True Shot Barrage, which means it's not going to be up to try to steal away this dragon. This dragon is
double stun as it falls directly into Bard ultimate. Once again, this Bard is absolutely on fire, getting stun after stun as Clarice goes down for the 7th time, trying to mop up more kills as Soul falls in the background. Denethor looking for an angle, but he's only going to find Heat instead. Mel going in, already blowing the removal. Shushi able to get out, but Scion going directly in, locking down the carry, taking him down. Enthralled, absolutely nuking the competition. Denethor trying to come in there in the background. That's a double kill on Enthralled. Team A is finally online. Team A is ready in this game number 2 to take the whole thing, Yanni.
Team A online, Team B offline, as they just took control from the moment they were afforded that Baron and that 3rd dragon, and it's all over here, Korak.
Absolutely. Nexus should fall rather quickly. However, Azir's going to try to buy them plenty of time. Actually, a good chunk of them going down. That's 2 dead so far, but they're going to trade someone for that side. All they need to do is just take out this ding-dang Nexus. Nexus getting so close to going down, and ultimately, it's just going to fall to Team A. And I think that is going to tie up our score, Yanni, 1-1 in this block of 3.
Yep, and you know what? It's really sad because 5 Mini had a really good Azir ultimate there. Unfortunately, it was far too late. But if you ask me, Korak, the MVP of this game, the support over on Team A, it's Bounty, the quicker picker-upper. My guy, just every single Bartle said, I'm here, I'm cleaning up right now, making big plays. There was that one fight that was, it left me so disappointed, right? When he went in and he hit his Bard ultimate on 2 members, and then he immediately stunned 2 others, and it was only a 1-for-1. Team A only won it because in the extended Team B wanted the extended fight and lost the extended fight. But this guy single-handedly wrapped up 4 out of 5 members of Team B. He played a really strong Bard game, and then it's when you saw Team A started coming back into the game is when they were able to be in position to take advantage of these Bard ultimates. So they were ready for these Bard ultimates. I think it was just a matter of these guys getting on the same page, and they played it out pretty well.
And they knew to combo it extremely quickly. Every time Bard got his ultimate down, Mel was looking for an angle. It's like, okay, when's the stun? Do I have the timing? Yes, I have the timing. So stun into stun, and just an insane amount of damage would come in. And Thralled would make sure that they were in range on the Caitlyn, and just they would chunk people. Sometimes the traps would come down as well, but mostly just the damage and the absolute rinsing. And there was a lot of control. There was a lot of reorientation on the side of Team A. Either way, that ends game number 2 for us. We are going to be doing game number 3. And in order to keep the lights on and stop ads from happening, we are going to go into a short ad break so they don't happen in the middle of a game, which everybody loves. But stay tuned, please, and we'll be right back.
強く強く輝いて消えた流れ星ほら命が燃える何かに怯え走り続けたその虚しさの指示何を見て何を探してきた自分の声がただ響く幾千万の星の中で惹かれて出会った守り手たちよ回る回る時の輪の中で自分の弱さ強さの先に同じ空誰かが見上げてそう信じて消されない虹の奇跡が届けと冷たい指で涙拭ったあの日にはもう帰れない水平線目指して飛び立つ自分の願いを抱いて幾千万の星に呼ばれ交わりすれ違う守り手たちよ回る回る時に抗って未来を願ってもいいですか儚さから目をそらしたぐり寄せる道の兆しの向こうかける希望あなたの光あなたの命いたずらに知らさないようにそっとくれた記憶胸に熱く灯し約束の地へもう繰り返らずに恋願う歌は空高く世界に銀河に広がってくそれがいつか風となり消えて新たな日が始まる越えてゆく時の輪の中で確かに刻みつけたきらめき同じ空誰かが見上げてる信じたから消されない虹の奇跡
Alrighty, Yanni, we are back for game number 3, draft number 3, and what an exciting game number 2. Not as exciting as game number 1, which we definitely casted, but still very, very exciting. I got to see everything I wanted. I got to see amazing Bard plays. I got to see amazing Ezreals. Ultimately, they didn't win that one, but what's most important, I think, is what each team learns from each one of these deals back and forward. And I think the biggest thing I want to know at this point is we're about 20 picks down in the Fearless, so 5 more picks on top, so 10 more picks on top of that, so 30 champions completely out of the game. And this is when I like to see how our junglers shape up. What are we going to get here in these final remaining games? Because I think I saw earlier on X that Jarvan is what, 0-8 in Worlds now?
Yeah, this champion is, listen, this champion is quite good. It is still a good champion. But the problem is people are trying to substitute this champion for Wukong. And it's not a great substitute. The champion is good at, in specific compositions. And I think that the issue is people are trying to make him just a little too evergreen. So we'll see if how the meta adapts when it comes to Worlds. But for something like this, I think Jarvan is totally and completely acceptable if they elect to go pick him up. Other champions that I think are pretty interesting. I know Graves caught a buff recently. I know Diana's clear speed has been massively buffed. I know these are kind of like oddball picks a little bit. So I do wonder if we are going to see them at all, given what the objective of this combine is. So we might see something a little bit more standard, like a Lee Sin, a Lilia. Could see a Jax in certain scenarios. I know Nocturne's still available, Pantheon. So there are plenty of options.
Absolutely, and the first couple of bans are going to be out. So far, it's Gnar, Maokai, Victor into Orianna, and so we'll be waiting on the third pick here for this one. And I've got to say, I think Diana is a really good pairing. If you've got, say, for example, a Galio mid, I think their kits just complement each other so well, and there's just a lot to play with there. And I'm a big fan of when Diana was very, very powerful. I like to see her in games, and we're getting a first hover here. A Yunara, actually, Yanni.
Okay. So with Jarvan off the table, that does mean that Yunara, there's not as many champions that are able to really go and get on top of her. Vi is available, so that could be a pick that you'll go for, and it does look like Team B will lock that in. And if they want to go with the strong mid jungle duo, Talia is an option that's available. Ari, which had recently gotten buffed, we chatted about that earlier, is an option as well.
And I'm happy to see Vi. I always love to see Vi into Talia because I think their combination of their 2 ultimates is super, super funny. Granted, I don't think we'll see that here, although Talia is decent into so far both of these. We've got Kaisa and we've got Vi, so I think Talia could be a possibility. Probably won't see it. Looks like the answer is going to be Pantheon. Always excited to see him.
If they lock Pantheon, we could see it.
Okay, we got Pantheon, yeah. So I thought maybe they were going to cast or curse me and bait and switch once again.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it here, but they will. I like this hover. I think this is a good lock in here, and they will lock it in. So it's a really big counter of what Team B wants to do. When you go Vi and then pair it up with a Kaisa, Kaisa's not going to be your only dive buddy if you're Vi. They're looking to get another dive buddy in this composition, and this early Renata Glass means that Team B is either going to have to just go all in on their strategy and say, hey, live and let die, we'll just have to outskill the Renata ultimate, or they're going to have to kind of shift gears a little bit. And if they lock in Bessa, which it looks like they did, they are just still going for it.
This is a very forward motion team for the side of Team B. I really, really like it. There's a lot of options, but the responses are just as good. Yunara is kind of weird to dive into because of the weird AoEs they throw down, and I know their movement speed got nerfed just a little bit. I believe their slows did as well, but the Renata is such a good answer to it. And what I like about Renata, and something I always try to watch out for with the supports, is how well they pair with Pantheon. And Renata's ultimate can set up Pantheon or follow up Pantheon. Those line ultimates pair so well together, and sort of keeping that in mind, maybe we'll get to see an Ornn. I think Ornn is a good follow-up. It will provide damage. It'll provide
fearless
sustain.
Man, my friend.
Oh, is he? Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
they're not
fully in order. Yeah, they're in draft order on the side, so it's easy to glance over and be like, yes, this is available, and it's really not. So unfortunate there. We did see Morgana and Talia get banned, and I think those are really good pairings with the junglers on either side. So this Ari, again, still available, and I think still works great with either team. Specifically, Team B Would really love to have an Ari here after this Talia has already been banned. I think Annie is also a great pairing on either side as well. So look out for those two champions coming up in the second half.
Absolutely, and Annie going into that pinpoint and stun will do a lot. The ban for okay, we are going to ban him.
Yeah,
I'm
see the
not
ban.
sure how I guess he is good with a lot of the follow up, right? Because so far Team B is looking for this very forward motion, and Rakan can help facilitate that.
Yeah.
But I still don't know how I feel about it into this team comp. I guess it can add a lot of disruption because Pantheon, for the most part, he wants to go in, deal a bunch of damage, and sort of like rotate out slightly, and then just kind of go from person to person to person, and that can be a good disruption for this. I do like, if we are going Aurora here, I do like the idea of Aurora because I think Aurora does well when people are going into them, because Aurora has a little bit of a shorter range, at least deceptively short for the champion. You kind of expect it to be a little bit longer. And if they can get shots over the walls, if they can get shots directly into team fights, which I think they will have with plenty of this in-your-face team comp that we've got for Team B. So Aurora, I think, is a very, very solid choice here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's generally pretty good. And a Vex lock in. Okay, this is not a champion we see very often, but with all these dashes, I mean, Kaisa ultimate triggers this too. The hop done by Aurora as well. Obviously, Vi and Bessa are self-explanatory, but not only that, it's another dive champion for this Pantheon that, takes advantage of what Team B tries to do. I think this is a really savvy pick here. And if they lock in this Shen, which it looks like they did, this is another really nice pick because now you get to throw Shen on top of the Pantheon, on top of the Vex, get him into the backline, or you can use it to protect your Inara too. This is a really nice composition put together by Team A and just goes to show Samikin's mid lane pool flexibility.
And the one thing I really like about this as well is the Shin and the Pantheon give them a lot of flexibility to be all over the map, followed shortly behind Vex. And then they have just sort of the 1-2 or the final punches to come in, which is Yunara and Renata. This is a very, very oppressive team, team fight wise, and just sort of getting around the map. The response to this is going to be Soraka. She's a little bit vulnerable. I've got to worry about her into Pantheon, but what I like about Soraka for me, and this is someone who I play quite well, it's not only that they can be really, really aggressive in lane, but Soraka specializes in erasing mistakes, and every small little bitty mistake that happens here is going to be so important. You go in on someone who's not the Soraka, she's immediately going to silence you. She's going to heal things up. She's going to capitalize on it. She's going to prepare for these fights. However, it's a dual-edged sword because she is very, very vulnerable. Her range isn't the world's best or anything like that, so she is a target to go for. But even if you spend a lot of time, if you don't kill her immediately and you're spending time chasing her, those are resources you could have spent taking down the Kaisa, taking down the Aurora, because this is a very, very scary team on the side of Team B.
Yeah, Clarice is going to have to be really careful with his positioning. Struggled a little bit on that Karma in the last game, but the good news is there's no Bard ultimates this time around. The bad news is if you step up a little bit too far, Pantheon's going to hop on top of you. You can see Samikin mark you with the ultimate and then dash right after you. Obviously, you can drop the silence down preemptively in that case, but also Shen's going to be coming after you with that taunt too. So this is going to be a really important when it comes to positioning. The good news as well is that Team A, when you look at it, they are a little bit lacking in damage, right? I mean, Pantheon does provide enough. Obviously, Samikin, once he gets his items, is going to get there. You're not getting anything out of support or top lane, and Yunara is going to take some time to get online. This is one of these late game hyper carries that is going to just kind of be trying to do their best in some of these fights, with their ultimate, the Arc of Ruin, once you upgrade, once you use your ultimate and upgrade your, I believe it's a W, does quite a bit of damage. So we'll be looking for those in fights. But outside of that, I mean, the extended fights are not going to favor Team A because of the Soraka. You need that burst.
That sustain will provide a lot of pressure, and I think that's sort of counterintuitive to Pantheon. And the more I think about it, the more I like Claritz playing Soraka into that, because if Claritz is not immediately in Pantheon's ult, all you have to do is time your E to stun him, and that's not what Pantheon wants. Pantheon doesn't want to be silenced as soon as he ends in his ult. He immediately wants to hop on someone, throw his spear, deal a massive amount of damage, and then just turn that into kill after kill after kill, and Soraka can very much so disrupt that. Assault and Battery might play a weird role here, but I think Yanara has enough to sort of deal with it when we're talking about the ultimate here for Vi. Vex also has a lot of tools for it. Renata definitely has a lot of tools for it. So I am a little worried about Bio finding their voice in Vi on this game, though.
Yeah, I do think that's agreeable. Now the good news is the ultimate does make you go unstoppable, but the bad news is obviously if nobody's able to follow up, it becomes a problem as well. Denethor maybe times his ultimate really, really well. He can get by the hostile takeover because he'll go unstoppable for that short time. So we'll have to see if what the timing looks like, Korak. Now, one thing that we didn't really talk about is objectives when it comes to this game, and obviously Ambessa's really gonna like Grubs here. I don't really think we're like, yes, Grubs are a must-have for Team B. I think both of their solo laners really like it, but I think you can kind of get away with it. The one thing that you really need to be careful about, though, is just side laning in general if you're Team B because of the globals that Team A has. Yes, it's just the Pantheon ultimate, but if there's a Shen on top of it as well, that's where you're running into problems. That's where you're potentially, getting 2v1 on the side lane, and that can really ruin any setups that your team may want to have.
And I definitely agree with you on that, Yanni. Both sides very much look very team fighty, and so that's going to be something they specialize in. But that doesn't necessarily mean Void Grubs are terrible on them, right? If you don't have a crazy amount of macro ability, Shelly and Void Grubs can help sort of offset that to where it's like, sure, maybe you're super team fighty, and sure, the Drakes are going to be really, really powerful, but giving up Void Grubs is still going to have an impact on the game. Giving up Shelly is still going to have an impact on the game. That pressure is so important for, even if your goal is not necessarily to get crazy amounts of macro, it's just to pick up these objectives. That pressure will allow you to get more objectives, because a lot of people forget that League of Legends is not a KDA based game. The KDA helps, sure, and gold is important, sure, but the objectives are what help you blow up the Nexus.
True. Everybody thinks League is a KDA game, especially at my elo.
No 5-man stack or anything like that. We're just getting a little bit of 5-star on each side. I suspect Ward's going to come down on either end. I am a little worried about Clarit's into Renata. Can take a bunch of early damage before that, but they should have enough time to reset if they don't get caught here. The heal is coming out there for Bounty, so Bounty did blow that, I think, for the movement speed, and it turned into a bit of a nothing burger, and I think Clarit should have plenty of time to back here and reset, because their health bar is going to be so important in the early game, and indeed we're going to get that. Not even a minute and 30 seconds on the clock yet, just sitting at a solid minute, Yanni.
Yeah, I think it's okay to burn the heal a little liberally here if you are Team A and if you're Bounty, because you shouldn't be under any threat in this lane. One thing about Kai'Sa is without her specific pairings like a Nautilus or even an Alistar, she's definitely not that strong of a laner. And Kai'Sa Soraka is not a lane that I'm like, yes, this lane has kill potential. This is going to be a big farm it out type of lane. They're going to try to outlast you as the bot lane of Team B. But overall, you should be okay giving up that heal, because by the time you're going to need it, it should be back up.
Absolutely. And something I've kind of noticed here about Denethor, because I've cast a couple of his other games other than just in here, is Denethor really favors these skirmishing champions, and I think Aatrox really fits that category too. Sure, at some point Aatrox really wants to go in, but Ambessa is a lot like Renekton, where they're happy to go back and forward. They're happy to play into sometimes like Dr. Mundo's, but Shen does a deceptive amount of damage. So Decoy has a lot of tools to answer for it, but I think for the most part, they're going to be playing similar to Nocturne, where it's like, I just want to hit that level 6 so I can help capitalize and move my way in. But Denethor can answer that with a TP. And the thing, though, too, is Shen has two ways of getting across the map. He's got his own TP, and then he's got that. So he can go there for a fight and then immediately go back top if he needs to. So there's a lot of control. And I'm hoping we get to see Decoy and specifically Team A capitalize on that advantage that they do have.
I think that's a great point, Korak. I mean, if you are Denethor, you need to really go and take it to Decoy and try to, get as much damage as you can on him and force him away. The problem is, Ambessa's caught so many early game nerfs over the course of the year, because when she first, hit the scene, she was incredibly strong. So she doesn't deal nearly as much damage as she used to. So this feels like a scenario where the Shen can outlast you, and then having the ability to be able to just go wherever he wants at level 6 is going to be difficult to deal with, as you mentioned. Junglers both on the bot side here. They clear top
Oh,
bot.
Decoy
Getting
looking
close.
for an angle on Denethor. Denethor, less than 150 HP into Shin. That's a scary range to be, but once again, it's deceptive. Denethor on Ambessa really likes these back and forward trades, and just like Renekton, you need to be very careful. We are going to get it back. Maybe here. Denethor maybe really threading the needle, but he does have a lot of, or a decent amount of health regen.
Should be all right. Really important is if Denethor picks up this cannon, that trade was worth it because he denied one from Decoy.
Absolutely. Bio's going to do a little bit of rotating. Trading still continuing there on the north side. Bio going to go over on the side. If he's not careful, he could run into a bit of threat because it looks like the downtime for Pantheon happens right there as this Scuttle Crab falls to the side of Team A.
Yeah, and I really like this because you can let Enthralled be alone into Kaisa Soraka, so they brought Bounty with Aeon Crystal to secure both Scuttle Crabs, so that's Bio not getting anything.
Sitting about 4 minutes on the clock right now, Yanni, which means we got 2 minutes till the next objective. I think this Drake is going to be really important to dictate the tempo of the entire game and how everybody feels with positioning and how they feel in this game number 3, since of course we did play the other 2. I think it's going to be so telling to see how the rest of it is going to go. Not that Void Grubs aren't going to be important, but I think how we approach, if we approach Drake at all, is going to be such a great indicator here. Decent trading back and forth here between Mini and Sankini, just doing a good chunk of damage as just Gas Station Soraka is here for the healing to pop their way back in there. Hey, that is my favorite term for her, and I'm a Soraka player. I'm allowed to say that.
Okay, so why do you call it Gas Station Soraka?
Because she refills you, right? You need a couple of refreshments. You need to get some gas. There it is. Soraka comes in, pops down the heal, and you're good to go again.
Now, okay, so here's the thing. I don't really think of that when it comes to healing, but like back in the day, because I know that you're a longtime old player like me, when she gave you mana back, that's what I feel like is more of a gas station fill-up. Like
that's true, and maybe it's an old term. I'm an old player.
A gas station fill-up can also be, going to get food, right? And food generally means health, unless you eat bad stuff like I do.
Then it's negative. It's the opposite, which would be funny if you... imagine if they could add an anti-heal to Soraka. She could take her healing and put it on someone else. Would be super funny. Either way, I don't think we're going to see that. We are going to get a decent amount of damage here on Sushi. Sushi taking an absolute pounding in between Renata and the other side, but still turning into a bit of a nothing burger, and we're getting a bit more action than I expected in top lane. Looks like we've both burned our TPs on each side. Decoy being the lesser for it, not hitting his level 6 just quite yet. Denethor able to get their hands on it sooner rather than later. But the CSing is pretty similar on each side.
Yeah, nothing too crazy, and we'll have to see where these impacts lie in fights. Bio is going to start up this dragon on the bottom side. Doesn't really have full priority, but because Aeon Crystal has backed, this does mean it should be a free objective going over to Team B.
Absolutely, and I think the response here from Pantheon is going to be so important. He's sitting at level 5. Vi is also sitting at level 5, so neither one of them have their ult. Shen being the only one who's got his, which means he can respond to this. I feel like not using that ability on Decoy and positioning and getting some wards down is a bit of a mistake, because I think that they would have expected a Vi to try and go for this early Drake, since Vi does a decent amount of damage to objectives in the early game.
Okay, yeah. Bio's all right. It's going to mean that Aeon Crystal's going to pick up the 3rd crab of the game for himself. And, you mentioned that both of these junglers being level 5, level 6, huge spike for both of them, but more so Aeon Crystal, right? Because that ultimate, that global ability is so valuable. He has it right now in the back pocket, but nothing to use on. But that's the real timer that we want to see. How many Pantheon ults are we going to get off in situations where you're able to make fights 2v1 or 3v1 as they're looking for Bio?
Absolutely, and I think that's what we're looking for right here. Yanni, as Bio's not level 6 just quite yet. He really needs this red, which means Pantheon does have the advantage. Gonna go in, find the stun, a little bit of damage. I think he just wants to steal this red. Taking it from Bio right now will give him a lot of priority, so I think it's gonna be important for him to grab it. Yes, indeed, he's able to get it, which means Vi is further behind on the level 6 game. And something I always try to point out when we get a Pantheon is Pantheon specializes in this surgical knife sort of strikes and abilities, and just really hones in and focuses on these small little areas that change games, and I think that's a small example of what we're going to see going forward.
I think you're absolutely right. Bio is now level 6, so we do have Vi's ultimate able to focus out some targets like Samikin, like Enthralled, who might have a bit harder of a time trying to get away. These grubs have been started up here by Aeon Crystal, really unbothered to give up his bot side here because he got what he wanted. He got level 6. Stay on this top side and help out his team. Again, we're just waiting for the impact to be had.
Bio maybe in a little bit of trouble. Vex does throw it on their ultimate, but Assault and Battery goes immediately onto the Vex, trying to lock him down. Not a lot of damage to follow it up. They do have the stain here for Soraka, but Vi still takes a massive amount of damage as Decoy takes a pounding directly in the bum, but unfortunately it's just not going to be too much. That is the ultimate down for Shin. That I think that's the important part there for that one. As the Void Grubs do go down there, right there in the background. Bio once again back into the fire, taking so much damage, but Soraka Clarice is still here to heal them back up, trying to keep them alive. Pantheon coming in Shin picking up a kill in the jungle in the bot side.
There we go. We finally see the Pantheon ult come down. And, you know, we said earlier in the draft that these extended fights are going to favor Team B, but as it turns out, when you don't have any damage to really follow it up, and the Pantheon's going to come in full HP, moisturized, unbothered, in his lane, thriving, well, it's going to result in kills going over the way of Team A. Now, it did go into Decoy, so it's not the worst thing in the world, but a little bit of extra wave clear for the Shen. Anything you can do to keep him strong, keep him relevant is important. Denethor went in.
Ooh, and Thrall taking a good chunk of damage. They just need one more shot in order to take him down, and it looks like Psy's going to try to find an angle, popping their ultimate, but they don't need it as Denethor goes in, but does get taken down by the tower. Bounty was there, and they did pick up the kill. It would have been nicer on Enthralled, but unfortunately it just did not happen. It's a kill either way, though.
What do we call him? The quicker picker-upper, baby. He soaks up another kill for himself. And he shouldn't get dove either. It's very difficult to actually dive. Oh, wait. Whoa. Bounty.
Maybe stepping a little bit too far forward, trying to deny the back there of Aurora. Aurora may not have a lot of mana, but still, her AAs can hurt, and you cannot ignore the power of the banana. It does a deceptive amount of damage, and somehow Bounty is able to walk out of that.
This guy's crazy. That's how you know that this guy played in CB LOL. That's just a CB LOL-like play right there.
The sheer cojones on this Bounty, and I don't blame them. It's paid off well for them. They walked out of that, and that's not the only time. Bard got into some really hairy situations and just kind of casually walked away. Granted, they were Bard in the previous one, but still, someone to watch out for. I think you pointed this out in draft as well, that Bounty is someone to keep our eyes on, and so far I have not been disappointed, especially on Renata. For me, Renata's a bit of an unknown vector. I don't know where to place them other than sort of like anti-engage, which is great here.
Yes.
But they're not someone I play, so I'm not super familiar with what is a good Renata.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is what you pick, and that's why they picked this Renata Glass so early on, after Vi and after Kai'Sa were showing, just because you get to really shut down those champions later on in the game. We haven't seen any household takeovers yet because we haven't had one of these full fights, but once we do, that's where Bounty's going to make his large impact in the game, much like he did in the last one.
Vi looking for an angle. Assault and Battery going to come in. The flash is not enough to fire damage, but it is going to go directly into the safety, the warm arms of the Pantheon as they look for the kill. And there's the Feats of Warfare. Vex able to pick it up, popping their ultimate directly on play. Mini going to try to turn this into a second kill. And yes, indeed, they're going to find it there with the help of Pantheon. That Surgeon's Knife that I was talking about strikes again, and it is so important, Yanni.
And we asked, how many ultimates are we going to see out of Aeon Crystal? What sort of impact are they going to have? 1-0 and 2, now just 12 minutes into the game. He's got 75% kill participation all over the map, helping out, making plays, putting a 2,500 gold lead for his team on the board. They're going to take this dragon as well and split them up one apiece. He has played a damn good game so far, getting every single Scuttle Crab as well.
And look how powerful that spear was. Drake was at like, what, 200, 300 HP, and he just absolutely nuked it. So I don't remember if Pantheon specifically has an execute. I believe, his spear does have an execute. But just seeing the damage on it on Drake is so powerful. And the fact that they were able to pick up an Infernal Drake. I know it's only one Drake, but I think that's going to make an impact on Pantheon and just sort of in general.
You are correct in that assessment, Korak. Is starting to see Team B congregate over on the top side of this map here. A lot of pings, though, near that side. Be looking for Aeon Crystal to make another play yet again. Meanwhile, Decoy in a 2v1.
Decoy after fighting a good chunk of damage. Clarice doesn't provide a lot of damage, but Denethor should have plenty to make up for it. Pantheon going to come in, locking down the Embessa. Soraka trying to keep them alive. Once again, that mistake eraser is so powerful, but getting it stunned immediately, not able to help Denethor, having to flash themselves away, and I don't think Clarice is going to be able to escape from this. No, Pantheon does not want the heat from the banana and does back off, but that's so nice. That Surgeon's Knife going in time and time again. You mentioned that ultimate, and there is another one, Yanni.
I need to know where Aeon Crystal, I need to know about his credit card information and stuff, because this man, I don't know if he's gone for one of these airlines credit cards, because this man's got a ton of frequent flyer miles this game. He has gone everywhere, all around the map, turning around plays. It was a great taunt by Decoy as well. Really trying to put this one out of reach early on the Pantheon. Remember, this champion has been nerfed heavily. His clear speed is not the same as what it was just a couple of weeks, just a couple of months ago even. And Aeon Crystal still showing that this champion has a lot of power.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I think treating it like frequent flyer miles is going to be so important, because it's not like Pantheon has an insane cooldown, and for the most part, if it's up and you see something you can go for it, there's almost no reason not to go for it, especially if it's right before objectives. Speaking of objectives, we should have Shelly coming online here soon, and then other than that, we're just going to be waiting on the next upcoming Drake, which appears to be another Infernal. Grabbing double Infernal will be super great if Aeon's able to get their hands on it, but the positioning and the control of the Banana Bush are going to be so important. He who controls the Banana Bush controls the bottom pit.
A couple more pings coming down as we await Herald in just over a minute's time. As things are getting a little out of reach, as we mentioned just a few moments ago now, almost a 4,000 gold lead. I'm sorry, Herald is up now. But yeah, 4,000 gold lead over for Team A. It is starting to get into the insurmountable phase, especially because while Kaisa does get strong later, not on the same scale as Yunara, especially when you're kind of behind the 8 ball to start early on, is going to make good use of their grubs, Korak, and take down this turret.
Absolutely, and it's why one of why this objective is so powerful in the early games, because that provides so much pressure there in the bot lane. Shelly is up, Bio is on it. There are 3 here in the pit, and they're looking for a control, but looks like there's gonna be a response here for Decoy as he goes over the wall with the plant. Bio able to dodge a decent amount, but Sushi taking a good chunk of damage. TP from Samkini, gonna go there directly and leaving Sushi there by themselves. Pantheon gonna come in looking for the spot. Yes, indeed, they're gonna be able to pick it up, grab a kill. Shelly is on the menu, and I don't think Bio wants to hang out here. This is just walking death, making their way directly over to them, but maybe they're waiting for the ambush. Bounty is low, so if they can hop on that, that might be a decent kill, but I think maybe just going for the towers would be more important, Yanni.
Yeah, they didn't even have to use a lot to get that kill, right? They did invest Samikin's ultimate in his teleport. Hang on, Bio!
On going in. I mentioned how low Bounty was. The backing happened right at the perfect time. That's exactly what you want to see. Bio had a lot of control. They must have been talking about it in comms. They identified how low Bounty was. They waited for people to back, and they pounced. They got their numbers advantage, and Shelly is now on the menu.
Yeah, that was a really snazzy play coming out from Team B, because that's the only way that you get that sort of control back. But Aeon Crystal, listen, this Herald is still healthy.
Absolutely, but he can very quickly end up in a precarious situation, and there is the silence going to come down there on that side. Bio taking a good chunk of damage. Clarice needs a little time to get them up, but it looks like Sushi's also taking a healthy amount of damage too. There's a lot of people to heal, trying to keep up with him. It's a very tall order. Bio almost going to go down, but still Soraka able to keep him up as Sushi's able to do a lot of damage there in the background as this front line is Denethor absolutely continuing to hammer people down left and right. Shelly falling there to the background. Renata popping down their ultimate, but still just they're going to die left and right forward. A lot of turnarounds. Denethor going to get grabbed, a good chunk of damage. Soraka keeping them up, the shield coming in as Vex is going to get taken down. Decoy trying to find an angle in, but Bio immediately going to go back and forward as Bounty, once again, the quicker picker-upper, is able to at least grab a kill, but that's a 4-2 trade, Yanni. 8-6. Less than 18 minutes on the clock, my friend.
A very messy fight, and it all starts with Decoy making his decision to go after Sushi. Sushi had his cleanse available, so while he is off, messing around with Sushi, leaves the door wide open, and Thrall got engaged on by Denethor with his ultimate, that public execution, and it caused so many problems for Team A.
Absolutely. Soraka once again throwing down silence after silence, affecting not only Enthralled, but also right before that fight too, when we did get Aeon going in, Soraka threw down a silence and followed up with plenty, and they kept Bio alive, and Bio is so integral to that fight. That Mistakes Eraser does so much work. Soraka is so powerful, and I think people underestimate him. Banana Bush quickly shifting power, going back and forth.
Oh, nice.
Aeon gonna pull directly in. Denethor getting so close to going down. Soraka keeping them alive. That sustain is absolutely powerful. Banana Bush shifting control. Ooh. There's the flash there for Soraka, looking for the stun, and the ultimate there, still keeping it alive, and nobody's died yet in this little 5v5, Yanni.
Yeah, but now Clarit's less than half HP. We're seeing them move Denethor toward this mid lane. It looks like they're willing to give up this dragon, and that's really all that you're going to be able to get if you're Team A without having more heal cut on your side to be able to stop Clarit's from being not only the big healer, but the big disruptor. If you can take out one of those and be like, hey, he's going to disrupt us a lot, it's not as big of a deal. But when he can do both, it's a big problem.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a good point to bring up, where you know, support for a lot of times they set the tempo not just for bot lane, but a lot of times for the game in general. And Soraka doesn't necessarily set the tempo; they maintain the tempo of their own team, and I believe they disrupt the tempo of the other side because they get this damage, and then Soraka sort of turns it down. But it takes time. Soraka doesn't have a massive amount of CDR right now. It's going to get way worse the further the game goes on. But you know, it is something to watch out for, and it is a aspect to play into and around.
No doubt, my friend, as in all that scrum and that hubbub, Bio is able to pick up the Rift Herald, so it is something to note when it's 2 dragons to 1, but the next dragon's not up for 4 minutes, and here comes Pantheon.
Popping his ultimate, looking for an angle here on Denethor. Gotta try to lock him down. Not quite underneath tower. Unfortunately, Vex able to miss his ultimate. Denethor has so much time to walk out of there, especially with the help of Clarit's, and Autocon has now spawned and is on the table, Yanni.
I don't know if either of the teams are going to go for it. Just now, remember, we talked about it a lot, a big throw magnet, and generally, if you're the team doing it and your enemy team is not dead or limping away, it can be a pretty big mistake.
So Shen still has ultimate, Decoy still has ultimate up and going, but I think he's got to get a reset off because look how low his HP is. He's not trading super well into mini. I'm not really surprised about that because Aurora has got to be liking that matchup, I've got to imagine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all of the resistances that you have are armor and you have a bunch of health. Well, you know, Aurora never really cared about that all that much. As Team A heading up to this Otacon, looking to clear out quite a little bit of vision. Still a couple of wards, though. Very good wards, I might add, placed by Team B, making sure that no funny business is going to be going on over the next couple of minutes.
Absolutely, and that advantage I was talking about, Yanni, here on Decoy is up again. We have both the ultimate and the other side. Shen going to come in, trying to keep them alive. Redemption also able to add its part as Bio takes the tower shot and having to go over the other side of the wave. That does mean that's one tool out of the shed for Shen, but I don't blame him. That was a great save, keeping Yanara alive, because if anyone goes down at this point, Autocon should fall to the other side.
And a really big tool out of Bio's toolbox as well. His flash is going to be down, so your engagements are going to have to come from a much shorter distance, right? You can't just show up out of nowhere with a charged Q and a flash and get on top of Enthralled. It's going to be much harder for him to get to that priority target. You're going to need to get a little bit more creative, or over the next couple of minutes, you're going to have to just kind of let the game pass you.
Absolutely, and pressure's got to be so important here for this one, which is why we've got Decoy there in the bot lane. And while he may not have ultimate, doesn't have an insane cooldown, and we're getting about half to the halfway mark there for Shen, but he still has TP out and ready to go. And if they utilize this tool, if they utilize the fact that Shen has basically 2 globals, that's a lot of work. Shelly did get deployed. Bounty should see it, but they're going to turn this into an Autocon, or at least looking for the angle. Aeon not falling for the trick, going to look for a spot to go into. Running into Pantheon under Autocon is so important, and very threatening to have to deal with. Plenty of wards down, and it looks like maybe they're just trying to bait it out. I think staying here too long is a very scary option, as there it is. There's the full rotation there for Team A as we focus on the pink wards. Yeah,
and you know, I think this is really good for Team A. Team B, because of the way that the dragon fight happened, and when you got the herald meant that you weren't able to use it to leverage a dragon. And when you're trying to use it to leverage another objective like an Otacon, it takes too long to do. So no value gained for Team B in that Rift Herald. With this dragon coming up in about a minute, Team B is either going to have to fight this dragon or they're going to have to fight the next one.
Taking the bait, going directly into a stun, but has plenty of time to dish things out back and forward. Bio going to go over the side. Redemption going to come down on Yanara. Yanara just able to pick it up, able to capitalize on some of theirs. Sushi going to get down by Enthralled. Bio left here to take a whole bunch of damage, getting so close. But Shen, decoy into this Aurora is got to be absolutely frustrating. This is such a good play here by B side, just locking down the Shen, so he has a hard time responding to these fights. But ultimately, the kill goes to the side of Team A. Ultimately, the tower goes to the side of Team A right before the objective, Yanni.
Yeah, and guess what? It doesn't matter that Phi Mini is checking decoy here, because Phi Mini is a large part of his team's damage, and you're taking out the defensive prowess of the Shen, but you still have ways to engage. And yeah, you know, that hostile takeover wasn't fantastic. It didn't hit multiple members, but you know what it did do? It hit Clarice, and for a second, Clarice was unable to heal his AD carry, and that's why Sushi went down. This means that the Dragon is going to go over the way to Team A. They're going to put themselves on Soul Point here, and as we all know, Hextech Soul, one of the stronger ones in the game, will wreak havoc on Team B if Team A is allowed to get it in 5 minutes.
Absolutely, Yanni, and just the everything that they were able to gain there was so important. They picked up a kill, sure, that's nice. They were able to get pressure in mid lane by taking out that T1, awesome. They were able to get to that third Drake, which is so important, which means they're gonna have so much prio. They know that the other side needs to contest the soul. You cannot just ignore it. Otacon is still up. Shen does have his ultimate, so he can respond really quickly, but so can Denethor. Denethor has a TP, but once again, that 1-2 punch, actually no, the 1-2 punch for Decoy is not up. He does not have TP, but at least he does have one ability to capitalize and move their way in if, say, once again, Enthralled gets captured. And Enthralled is building up a little bit of a war chest right now. Their CSing is pretty decent. They're a little bit ahead of Kaisa, and the damage, from what I understand for Yanara, was not nerfed. It was just her movement speed and I believe her slow, so she still does a good amount of chunking.
No doubt, you know, it's a champion that a lot of people have kind of soured on a little bit, but again, as you said, still very strong when she gets into the late game regardless. Felt like a lot of her earlier game power was out as Sushi is forced all the way back, which means you have so much purchase on the top side.
Aeon looking for an angle on Clarice, doing at least a decent amount of damage, so that's going to be some out of the toolkit of the side of Soraka. A little bit less HP for her to dish out and to help out her team. Not a massive amount. She should be able to regen a good chunk of it, but she needs to be really careful. Bounty is waiting. The trap looking to get sprung here. Bounty going to go in, trying to do a little bit of damage, locking down the Soraka. Soraka trying to keep themselves out of danger. There's the ultimate there for Renata. Follows shortly behind Vex, dealing a good chunk of damage. Going for the Soraka is so important. Redemption coming down. Bio going to fall for a trap. Pantheon going over the wall, picking up a kill. Enthralled now has a bit more in their war chest, and now we have the number advantage for the all-important Otacon, and maybe we're just going to go for the Baron instead. Why not?
Really well played by Team A. Sometimes you don't want to use your large team fight ultimates on just one person, but Bounty showed in the first game on Bard that we saw that he wasn't afraid of doing that, and it's the same principle here with the hostile takeover. They find the Soraka, they say, we kill the Soraka, everything else becomes easy, and easy it is, as the Baron is theirs, but a kill in the mid lane.
Sam Keeney getting a kill, taking a note over here from Team A to where, hey, we lost these objectives, we lost this fight, so let's push all of our buttons, let's smash our G.I. Joes together and pick up one kill. And sometimes that's what you need to get the tempo back in your favor. Denethor into Decoy, but we do have Sushi here to dish out a good chunk of damage. Denethor finally able to trade very heavily in to Shen. Look at all of that damage, and that is quite the beefcake to chunk.
No doubt, and them killing Samakin over on the side of the team is pretty good. Uh-oh, here we go. We're just going for it.
Aeon looking for an angle, follow shortly behind Decoy. Decoy does looking for the taunt, maybe a little bit of stun if they can get in there, but this is so scary to go in. Bio gonna go in, follow shortly behind Aeon. Aeon gonna do a good chunk of damage as it looks like Aurora is gonna get caught by the ultimate there of Renata. Renata doing a lot of work, Bounty slowing things down. Clarit's gonna fall down, and Denethor's gotta run with his tail between his legs, because that is a very scary team to fight by yourself. Simon, he might just barely be able to make it out, but is Team B gonna be able to make it out of this game? Because look, that's a T3 now, Yanni.
Well, they'll be able to make it out of the game, Korak, but I don't know if they'll be able to make it out of the game with the W, as I think Team A is just pushing to end the game.
Absolutely, and there's 3 down, 10 seconds on the clock for any of the gray screens, so there's a chance for them to come up. Pantheon using that surgical tool, trying to find that numbers advantage, once again staggering them. That is a good kill, and they can easily turn this into a game. However, Aurora's looking for an angle to do a good chunk of damage, but she's going to go in by herself. Clarice going to come in a little bit too little, too late. Assault and battery trying to lock plenty of down. There's a chance for them to turn this around, but now Soraka is left holding the bag, and that's a quadra kill on Enthralled and a shutdown, getting them taken down. But I don't think the Penta's going to happen. No, sirree.
But he didn't die.
Enthralled, no Penta, but they did win the game, and I believe that is 2-0, if I remember correctly, Yanni.
At least he didn't die. Yeah, I thought for a second that, like, oh no, they were going to ruin the KDA, but I think what's so interesting about this game, Enthralled, before those last 2 fights, had just 1 kill, by the way. He then just got 3 kills up to 4, and then 4 kills up to 8, and that's just kind of how the story goes. And you know, that's the story of a Soraka sometimes, looking on the other side, because they got heal cut to Team A, and what started happening? They started cutting through the healing, just as we like to call it, because Clarice was much less effective as the game went on. I thought it was a really aggressive look out of Bio and friends to just kind of aggress onto Aeon Crystal and Decoy. These guys don't take a lot of damage, and you guys don't deal a lot of damage, to be quite honest. You know, Aurora, with the kind of build they had, obviously 5 mini wasn't exactly super close. Sushi was just on the 3rd item. So, you know, you do have a little bit of damage, but without any protection there, or no big tank to stand in the way, that does mean that it's going to be very easy to get to your Kaisa, easy to take them down. So well played there by both teams, but specifically Team Enthralled, Samikin, and Aeon Crystal, who I thought Aeon Crystal had a fantastic game.
Absolutely, and I love to see a great Pantheon. That Surgeon's Knife so important. And while they don't have the flashiest amount of kills, they still had such a crazy amount of impact. They got plenty of you know, air miles in with their ultimate, able to do a good chunk of work. And you know, you mentioned the double-edged sword there for Soraka on Clarice. Soraka is still very powerful, but the thing is, the supports are kind of baited to move forward and ward, because that vision is going to be so important, and that's what got Clarice caught just a couple of times, with just a couple of poorly placed wards, or at least timing on them. And when you've got a Pantheon lurking in the jungle, that's so scary, because Soraka is not exactly known for her tankiness, even if she gets her hands on, say, for example, Warmogs. Either way, I have been your host for the evening, Korak. He has been Yanni Cast, and this has been SIDO Combine. Yeah, and apparently he'll be back, actually on play-by-play this time. Thank you all so much for joining us, and don't forget, there is more coming up around 8 p.m. EST. We'll see you there.